This is Independence Day by Richard Ford. I read it last year during the first lockdown. And here's what I wrote about it. I was very impressed with this. We'd read The Sports Writer, previous book of Ford's, years ago in my reading group, and one of the people in the group, she thought Ford was her favourite author of all time. I didn't remember being that impressed by The Sports Writer, although I do remember it was an interesting book. But this one, I was blown away by it, really. The writing is, I call it stately here. Each sentence is beautifully crafted, and you can pick it up and just enjoy the sentences, I think. Never mind the story. It's a work of art in that respect. There's also a really dry humour. Let me just read you a tiny bit from this. It gives you a kind of flavour of it. Unmarried men in their 40s, if we don't subside entirely into the landscape, often lose important credibility and can even attract unwholesome attention in a small conservative community. And in Haddam, in my new circumstances, I felt I was perhaps becoming the personage I least wanted to be, and in the years since my divorce, I had feared being the suspicious bachelor, the man whose life has no mystery, the greying, slightly jowly, slightly too tanned and trim middle-ager, driving round town in a cheesy 58 Chevy, rag-top polished to a squeak, always alone on balmy summer nights, wearing a faded yellow polo shirt and green suntans, elbow over the window top, listening to progressive jazz while smiling and pretending to have everything under control, when in fact there was nothing to control. Franks was a sports writer in the first book, and he's now become an estate agent. And the one house sale runs all through the 450 pages of this book, and it's interesting because Frank says people don't really buy a house, they buy a life, and how they dream they'll be when they're living there, and how their life will change, and how they'll become the kind of person they want to be. And it's funny, but it's also sad, and there's Frank is always thinking and philosophizing, and the longing and disappointment never quite go away for him. It's brilliant. It's set in 1988, an American election year, and it just covers so many topics whilst, in a sense, not much happening. This isn't a book with plot and story in it, but it's fabulous in terms of character and sympathetic and wry insight into people. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a good book for lockdown. It's a good book to lose yourself in, I think. So strongly recommended.